Alright, so if you felt comfortable with the last video, you might not need to watch this one, but I wanted to do a workflow video, basically without all the details that the last video had. So I have a brand new installation of Reaper, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to left click here, and I'm going to left click 3 times, and that will create 3 different tracks. Now I might not use all of these, and that's fine. You can always add more, you can always get rid of them if you want to. You can right click and remove tracks. I'm going to do 2 versions here, one where I care about the BPM and one where I don't. So if I don't care about the BPM, I'm just going to go to Insert, Media File, then I'm going to navigate to wherever I have my beat, and I'm going to use this one right here. Wait for it to import. So you can move this around, and if you click on the end here and then drag to the left or to the right, it'll zoom in and zoom out. I'm going to go ahead and move this up to the top track. There's no real reason you have to do that. I just like it. I'm going to go ahead and left click here, create a new track. You'll notice I have this green cursor right here. If I were to record, it'll actually start recording from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to left click right here. That moves the cursor. So now when I start recording, it'll start right here. And here we're going to arm this for recording by left clicking here, and then we're going to click on the record button, and then that will start recording. When I try to make these videos, I've been getting extra feedback, so you're not going to hear me record, but I am recording. Alright, so notice that I disarmed this for recording, so now I'm not in recording mode anymore. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. These are the vocals I've recorded. I'm going to Control Shift and click on N to normalize. I have the beat in the first track, which is associated with this channel right here in the mixer, so I'm going to lower the volume. Again, remember that this is the master volume, so it'll lower all of the tracks, but I only want to lower the volume of the beat right now. I'm going to go ahead and hit the space bar, which is play.
I'm a killer, you a target. On the black arm dealing with the card trick.
So that is a little bit offbeat. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. Because I don't care about the BPM, and right now it's at 120, I'm going to go ahead and left click here where the snap enabled is selected, and I'm going to make sure that is deselected, and then that will allow me to move this audio around as I want to. So it's right about here where I want it to be.
I'm a killer, you a target.
You might have to listen to it a couple times to make sure that it's correct. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Notice I've only really recorded 2 different lines. I'm just doing an example here. You might record, a whole verse or maybe even all your verses. It really depends. If you kind of mess up on something, you can always go back and re-record something. Something I wanted to point out, if you put your cursor at the edge here or at the edge at the front here, number one, if you see this icon right here, you can left click and that will, make it shorter or longer, and you can crop out basically different parts of your audio. So for me, I don't want all this extra, blank space, so I'm going to just move it to right there. Alternatively, if you move your mouse a little bit higher, you'll see the icon change, and that will be a fade, and that will basically do what you see here, where it actually decreases the volume gradually. So you can adjust this and increase or decrease the fade. Now you probably wouldn't want to use that on your vocal, but you can also do it at the front here where you fade into the track. I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. Once you have your vocal all done, this corresponds with the second track, which corresponds with the second channel mixer right here. So if I click on FX, these will be the FX that are going to be on my vocals. I'm going to go ahead and type in Rough Rider. There are already presets built into this, so I'm going to go ahead and left click on the drop down box and change it to a good one. So I changed the knobs up a little bit. Now you can go down here to add another effect, and then I'm going to type in EQ, and then I will click on this one, REA EQ, which is a graphic equalizer. You can also play around with the other EQs, but I like graphic EQs, which are like this, where you can see kind of what you're changing. Again, going to presets, you can always pick one of these other presets. So for now, I'm just going to stick with the preset clear vocals. One other thing you might want to add to vocals might be reverb. So if you go type in reverb, if you click on this drop down box, they have a couple different presets. So I'm going to use this preset Bright Corridor. By default, there's usually a lot of reverb. All of the effects that you have this knob right here. You can left click and then drag up and down, and that will either increase or decrease the amount of that effect. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to 19%. 0% wet means there's absolutely no effect. 100% wet just means you're getting 100% of the effect. And I've said multiple times, we'll talk about mixing later on down the road, but that's about everything. Now let's say that you want to do some overdubs. You can go to this second track here, arm it for recording, and then record the same way you did the first one. Again, I'm going to go ahead and Control Shift and normalize. I'm going to zoom in, and I want to make sure that these are lined up. I'm going to crop off the end here and crop off the end here. Now I can add effects onto this track the same way I did the other one. Click on effects and add them in. Or, because I already have effects on the second track right here, I can left click, drag and drop, and that will copy and paste all of those effects. Now you might want to change up some of the effects. Let's say, for example, here I'm going to change the EQ, and I'm just going to put this on background vocals. Now you don't want your overdubs to be too loud, so I'm going to adjust the volume so that it's about, this is fine. We'll go ahead and click play and hear what it sounds like.
I'm a killer, you a target. On the black arm dealing with the card trick.
A pretty common technique is to only have overdubs on the multis. If I wanted to do that, I can just go ahead and click here, click S, and that'll split these two. And then I'll go ahead and delete that part.
Dealing with the card trick.
That way the overdub is only the part that rhymes. It really doesn't matter how you do your overdubs, really just do whatever sounds good to you. Another technique you should know is how to punch in. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new track. I'm going to left click here to on this for recording, and I'm going to record. And again, you notice the cursor is here. So it's going to start recording right here, and then I'm going to record the next line. I've already got these two lines here. What you don't want to do is arm this track for recording because you've already got audio here. So if I were to start recording from here, it would record over this audio I already have. So again, you won't hear me recording, but I'm going to go ahead and record. After you've recorded your new audio, you can do the same thing, Control Shift N. I'm going to go ahead and click S, delete. You can copy the vocals from here and just drop them into here. Alternatively, you can also take this vocal and put it up here. It really doesn't make a difference. All that does matter is that you have the same vocal effects throughout. If you're doing punch-ins where you have one line and then you record with another line, you want to make it sound like you recorded it all in one take. So you definitely don't want to have one kind of weird effect on this vocal and then a whole different effect on this vocal. I'm going to go ahead and realign this a little. And then we can zoom in. And it just sounds like I did it all in one recording.
I'm a killer, you a target. On the black arm dealing with the card trick. Cold flow, I've been chilling in the Arctic.
The only other recording technique you might want to do is ad-libs. It's really the same thing. You click on record. Ad-libs are really just background noise. For example, DMX, he would bark a lot in his ad-libs. Or occasionally he'll just yell, "What?" So we'll record something dumb real quick. Again, I'm going to Control Shift and N. Ad-libs are normally a lot quieter than the vocals. So I'm going to go ahead and decrease the volume quite a bit. Clicking on S, going to delete. Crop this in. Going back and playing this one more time, not too much different.
I'm a killer, you a target. On the black arm dealing with the card trick. Cold flow, I've been chilling in the Arctic.
And that's about everything you'll need to know. It's pretty common, I think, if you're doing overdubs, sometimes they'll have two different tracks. So they'll have two different overdubs, and you might record this two different times. I just duplicated to save time. But you would normally want to record two different overdubs, and then in one track, you would want to go here and you can pan it to the left, meaning that it'll go into the left headphone or the left speaker, and then you can pan the other one to the right, and then you'll want them, about the same. So this is 74%, and I got this one to 74%. Let me go ahead and set this back so I have all of the vocals I recorded.
I'm a killer, you a target. On the black arm dealing with the card trick. Cold flow, I've been chilling in the Arctic.
So like everything, play around with it, do some research. That's about all you really need to know to actually record. Those are some of the most common techniques. Now, let's say you do care about the BPM. I'm just going to go ahead and file, new project here. Almost everything is the same. I'm going to go ahead and left click here, start up a new one. All right, so I went to the tempo tapper, did all that. and I determined that it was about 90 BPM, so I'm just going to type in 90 here. I'm going to go ahead and insert media file. Zoom out. I'm going to put this back up to the top. Now I have this set at 90 BPM, and I'm noticing that the line here does not quite line up with the peak here. So what I'm going to do is click on S, and I'm going to go ahead and delete this portion right here. I think it's off a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in, and I'm going to make sure that this peak is aligned with the line here. However, to do that, you also want to disable the snap. It's kind of a good indication that you have the correct BPM and everything if you see that the lines in the background kind of line up with certain peaks that you have. Like right here we have a peak, and right here we have a peak. It's kind of something that you just need to get used to looking at waveforms and seeing, you know, where the loud points are and where the quiet points are. So I'm going to zoom back out. So you'll notice I have a little bit of extra space here because I chopped it off, so I'm going to crop it so that we kind of restore that. Now that I have it all lined up, I'm going to re-enable the snap. Just about everything else is the same. I'm going to go ahead and record. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing I did in the last one. I'm just going to add in some effects, a compressor, an EQ, and reverb. Everything else is pretty much exactly the same. You would add in overdubs the same way. You would add in ad-libs the same way. The primary benefit to really knowing your BPM is now that I've recorded and I've lined it up and it's on beat, if I want to move my vocals around it all, they will still be pretty much on beat. One thing you'll want to do is click on the tail end here and make sure that it's going up to the line. That way you know it's on beat. And then now if you move it around, it will still be in this frame of 1 bar. All right, let me go ahead and play this so you can hear what it sounds like.
Looks like you lost another one.
I'm a killer, you a target. On the black arm dealer with the card trick.
Now if I click on this and I move it around, it'll still be on beat. So like for example, if I play it from here.
I'm a killer, you a target. On the black arm dealer with the card trick.
I don't have to realign it or make sure that it's on beat. I just know for a fact that it is based on how it's aligned. However, if you only move it in increments of, let's say, like a half of a bar, it'll be on beat, but it'll just be on beat in a different area. For example,
I'm a killer, you a target. On the black arm dealer with the card trick.
But that is mainly the point of knowing the BPM, being able to move this around and know that it's still on beat. Whereas if you don't know the BPM, you're going to have to kind of use your ears and figure out where it's supposed to go. Now, personally, I prefer to have it without the BPM. I just feel like having the BPM is just too much of a hassle for me. So I usually never really mess with it. And I primarily only use Reaper for recording. I don't use it for making beats. So there isn't a whole lot of reason for me to need to move around my vocals that much. If you want to have a better understanding of how to make beats, you know, knowing the BPM and everything, definitely look that up online. And I think that's about everything I wanted to cover, at least for this video, so thank you for tuning in.